And hello, and thanks for tuning in, folks. This is the Russinize Your Day show where we take politics and ruin its self-esteem. I'm your host, Russ, and back from a brief hiatus is...
Brent. I'm your other host.
Yes, sir. It's good to be back here. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. I gotta give a little bit of a disclaimer on, we did skip Tuesday's episode. I appreciate everybody's patience with us. We are still in the processes of really working to form how the show is. It's still a work in progress, but we're right about there. We're very honored to have a solid base of listeners. We have a pretty solid base that listen regularly, so we appreciate you. Thank you, and thank you for putting up with us. And to our new audiences via YouTube, that's correct. We do record our episodes now, so you can watch us do whatever it is this is. You can watch it. That's
just greatness. Watch us do our greatness.
Yeah. So you can come on over and enjoy that. And party with us.
It's always a party.
On YouTube. So check us out. I think it's just, if you just go to, probably just search for Russinize Your Day on YouTube. I don't actually know. We've only posted one episode so far. So this will be the second on YouTube. But we're actually at this one's episode 27 that you and I have recorded.
What, so far this year, right? Or not all together.
No, it's not all together, but this year. Excuse me, yes, this year. Since we shifted to doing it 5 days a week.
Right. And joining WHRL.
The WHRL network?
Yeah.
Check us out, whirlwindmedia.com. There is no I in whirl. I have a quick update here. Well, we have actually have a quick... I didn't talk to you about this one.
Oh, thanks for putting
this is a surprise one, but it's not going to surprise you.
Oh, okay.
Donald Trump.
Nope, no surprise.
He tweeted out one of his staffers tweeted out a quote by former Senator Tom Coburn that said, he is with that. This is a quote by Tom Coburn about Ted Cruz. He is, without a doubt, one of the most dishonest people in D.C. That's supposedly Tom Coburn, senator from Oklahoma, talking about Ted Cruz. The only problem is it's not actually a quote from Senator Coburn. And Senator Coburn is retired. He's not a senator anymore. He's the former senator of Oklahoma. But we have here... oh, no, I don't have that one up. Oops, excuse me. I jumped the gun there. My apologies.
Always jumping the gun.
But since being called on the phony quote, Trump has, of course, you'd expect that when you're caught using a fake quote, you stop using it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Any normal person would admit, hey, sorry, we got this one wrong. No, he is still using the quote.
Well, that's just great. That's just great campaigning right there.
Oh, I did have it. Here it is.
Oh, okay.
This from the Right Scoop. I have the audio right here at a rally. This is a rally after they've already said, hey, and even Tom Coburn himself said, I didn't say that. Trump is still out there saying this at a rally in South Carolina.
Torture. And they were talking about waterboarding. And they asked Ted Cruz, who I think is totally unfit to be president, but these are minor details.
Okay, first let's just... Unfit to be president, this is minor detail. If somebody's unfit to be president, that's not a minor detail. That's a pretty big deal, which shows just how phony he is.
Exactly. I mean, it's a huge deal. It's the leader of the free world.
And if Trump honestly thinks Cruz is, then he shouldn't be. Oh, these are little details. Whatever.
I really mean that. I think this guy, a senator just came out today, a senator from Oklahoma who's a very highly respected senator, and said he's...
First, as I mentioned, he's no longer a senator. He's retired, but Trump... I mean, I understand they call... You sometimes do refer to people if they're former. But most of the time you call them former. You put the former in front of it. former president. You say the first time you mention them like that, and then if you continue referencing them, then you just drop the former and say senator. He does not. He says a senator. A senator comes out.
He's one of the most dishonest people he's ever worked with. That's a hell of a statement. I've never even heard a statement like that. And one of the most respected senators. But if you look at all...
It's a fake quote, and he doesn't seem to know that Senator Coburn is no longer a senator.
That and the fact that he says very honorable. How many people have heard of this senator?
Well, actually, Coburn's a pretty well-known senator, I would say. I'd argue he would be.
All right.
If ever there was a time Trump was telling the truth, it was at that
just
that one little point. He actually got it. He got one right. But that's just I wanted to just mention that. So if you see this tweet going around that's been circulated by Donald Trump, it's a fake. It's not real.
Like most of his tweets.
Like most of his tweets. Now, on Monday's episode, I talked about the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. There's a couple things we got to cover about that in updates since then. The first one being, I had mentioned how in 2007, Chuck Schumer, who's now attacking the Republicans for wanting to block Obama's next nomination. Well, it also turns out that in 2006, the appointment of Justice Alito, President Obama, then a senator, promised to filibuster the nomination of Justice Alito. We have somebody, a reporter actually asked him the question about it, asked it directly.
How do you respond to Republican criticism that your position is undercut by the fact that you and other members of your administration who were in the Senate at the time tried to filibuster Judge Alito in 2006?
Look, I think what...
Yes?
In all due fairness, the reason he's stuttering right now is because he doesn't have a teleprompter in front of him. So he's trying to think.
So trying to answer a question without his... Well, it wasn't a planned question, so he's not used to the media asking him real questions.
Yeah.
So this one really catches him off guard.
What's fair to say is that how judicial nominations have evolved over time.
What? What is he talking about?
I love how he says evolved over. It was 2006. It was 10 years ago. There hasn't been a ratification of the Constitution in the last 10 years, Mr. Obama.
There's been no major shift in the time from 2006 until 2016.
But there's been a huge. You just don't understand.
You got to see what. Let me. You see.
In all fairness,
look. I think what's fair to say is that how judicial nominations have evolved over time is not historically the fault of any single party.
I'm pretty sure all of us can figure out whereabout we were in 2006.
Let me tell you. I visited all 58 states.
All 58.
I think I know a little bit more about this than you do.
All right.
Is not historically the fault of any single party.
Oh, now suddenly it's not the fault of any one party. Republicans are the worst party ever. They want to stop everything. They hate me, etc., etc. They're obstructionist, which has been a term used against Republicans in this Supreme Court nominating kerfuffle.
Oh, good word.
And I know. And but now suddenly it's not the fault of any single party.
This has become just one more extension of politics.
What?
It's just been an extension of politics.
Yeah, I heard what he said, but what does it... What?
I don't know if he understands or not, but if you are selecting the Supreme Court justices, it's part of politics.
It's a big part of politics.
It's the third branch of our government.
Well,
it's part of politics.
It's just a more extension of politics.
And there are times where folks are in the Senate and they're thinking, as I just described, primarily about is this going to cause me problems in a primary? Is this going to cause me problems with...
So wait, is that what you were thinking back in 2006? What? I don't understand what you're trying to explain here, Mr. President.
Neither do I, but I do have to say that in the last 7 years, this is probably the most honest he's been.
That's a valid point.
Supporters of mine.
Supporters of mine?
And so people take strategic decisions. I understand that.
We have the transcript ready. Let me just read what he said. You know, look, I think what's fair to say is that how judicial nominations have evolved over time is not historically the fault of any single party. This has become just one more extension of politics, and there are times where folks are in the Senate and they're thinking, as I just described, primarily about, is this going to cause me problems in the primary? Is it going to cause me problems with supporters of mine? So people take strategic positions, and I understand that. So he just, as you mentioned, this was an honest moment for him. He just admitted that what he did in 2006 was politically motivated to place him in a strategic position.
Yeah. And it's very telling because at the beginning he's stumbling for his words. He doesn't know. Yeah.
You know,
his favorite word is or a form of So it's
let me tell you. He likes that one a lot too. Let me tell you. You know,
this is not America. This is not who we are.
Yes, that's what he always has a good lesson for us.
Yes, he does. Except for now. I guess the lesson that you could take out of that is the fact that they're doing it for strategy, political strategy,
which is what he admitted. He admitted
exactly.
That's what they're doing. But there's more to the Scalia thing as well, to his death. And there's a bit of a conspiracy theory growing out there that he didn't die of natural causes. Specifically, this is spawned from the owner of the ranch that he died at, John Poindexter, which sounds rather made up, but
can we
way to go, Poindexter.
Can we figure out if that's a real person?
But what he said, in his statement, he said that they discovered the judge in bed with a pillow over his head.
That's how I sleep all the time.
Well, I do too. I mean, it's just like
it's comfortable.
Keeps me from snoring and
actually,
breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
muffles my snores a lot.
Yeah. Every breath I take in is close to my last.
Yeah, possibly is your last.
There's nothing like taking your mind off of snoring by putting your mind on surviving.
Yeah.
It really helps with snoring. So if you have a spouse who snores,
put a pillow.
Just smother them in their sleep. They will stop snoring and living. But
yeah, did you just advocate death?
No. I didn't advocate it. I'm just saying there's alternatives to these, the medicines.
There's alternatives to snoring
and living.
A pillow.
Alternatives to everything. I'm just throwing options out. I mean,
I like how you're finding the silver lining.
You got to. You have to. I mean, there's states. There's states around that have legalized assisted suicide. So this is basically
it's what it was.
Right up on par with those.
Yeah. It's very interesting though that this conspiracy is coming out. I mean, in all honesty, if you walk into somebody's bedroom and you see them lying in bed with a pillow over their face, you're not thinking, oh, he accidentally put a pillow over his face.
Well, what's interesting, though, too, is that the judge who pronounced him dead...
The judge?
Yeah, they had a judge.
That's weird. Usually they have a doctor.
Well, I think she's like... I think you have to have a judge... I don't know. On Sunday, Presidio County Judge Cinderella Guevara.
Are these people real in Texas?
Cinderella and Poindexter. That the cause of death on Scalia's death certificate would read myocardial infarction or heart attack.
Yeah, I was going to say, or for the Slingman, a heart attack.
She later explained to the Washington Post that she had simply meant that his heart had stopped, saying it wasn't a heart attack, he died of natural causes. So now there's, she's not even sure. And she didn't show up. She did this over the phone.
Well, first of all, she's a judge, not a doctor. And
She's also a fictional character.
Yes, she is. Yes. She was wearing her glass slippers, actually, to proclaim him dead.
Yeah.
But
she sent her little mice in her stead to check out Scalia's body.
Yeah, and then she backtracks. Oh, no, it wasn't a heart attack. His heart just stopped. Well, that's pretty much a heart attack.
Yeah, well, that is, yeah. It wasn't a heart attack, it was natural causes. But she reported to Mediaite that as part of her investigation, one of the things she did ask the sheriff and the U.S. Marshal, was there a doctor present when this all happened? Was there a doctor? Because all I've heard is a judge, a guy with the last name Poindexter, a sheriff, and a U.S. Marshal. What is...
No doctors.
Texas, what are you going to do? Were there any signs of foul play? And they said absolutely not. At that time, she still wanted to be careful and asked them if Scalia's physician would call me. Did they even notify Scalia's physician at this point?
I don't think he's been notified yet.
I felt comfortable, the judge felt comfortable what she knew was going on with him physically. Yeah, he was dead. That's what was going on with him physically.
Pretty cut and dry, really.
This is such a bizarre situation. I don't know if any of, at first, I heard it was a heart attack. It's pretty open and shut. He was, in his late 70s?
Yeah.
79. Okay. But now all of a sudden the owner of the ranch saying they found him with a pillow over his head. Where was all that? And I also heard that there was no autopsy done.
Well, I mean,
or they didn't order one done.
Well, it's kind of strange. I mean, in order to do the autopsy would be to admit foul play. I believe that's why they haven't done it.
There, it says right here, yeah, partially based on the fact that no autopsy was performed.
Yeah, and because they believe he died of natural causes.
Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it is just a conspiracy theory, but I find it very interesting with all these made-up people's names.
Yes. Pretty conspiratorial.
Yeah. But it's just something, it's been gaining momentum. I heard about it once, and then I've started to hear about it everywhere now. So
it's catching fire.
Something to just keep in the back of your mind as this goes forward. I'll admit that when I first heard Scalia was dead, and I was quite surprised, my first thought was it foul play?
I think most people's thought was probably that.
Now, we have the second half of our show here is going to be going into white privilege.
Ooh, good topic for us.
So, yeah, it is. Now, I'm going to let you kind of tee us up here because you found an article
I did.
From Dennis Prager on National Review. That is he's apparently doing a series on about widely held beliefs that are either untrue or meaningless. And in part 2 of this series, he deals with white privilege. And I find this a very interesting topic because in light of the Grammy performance by Kendrick Lamar,
yep,
which was him and his posse.
We
entourage.
There we go.
Entourage. His entourage performing in a prison setting with prison garb on.
And shackles.
And shackles, yes. And then Beyonce, or as my father calls her, Bouncy, performing at the Super Bowl. And her controversial Black Panther one, which I wasn't aware of. When I watched the Super Bowl.
Shocking, actually.
Yeah, well, there was a game going on in between all these funny commercials and a Coldplay concert. But I didn't know. I didn't catch on that she was talking about Black Panther. Frankly, I watched her whole Formation music video, and with our culture today, in our society, I have to ask, are there any millennials out there who understood what she was saying or just saw her bouncing around on screen? Let's face reality here. Was it?
I think it would have to be the latter.
I don't think anybody was actually figuring out what she was going on about. But regardless.
Yeah. I think that was a dog whistle, actually.
Oh, that makes sense. That explains it.
Dog whistle.
Doesn't explain it. But here we go. Why don't you take us through? You found this article. Why don't you take us through it a little bit?
All right, so Dennis Prager.
Do you have a definition for white privilege?
You. Not the letter U, but you sitting next to me. White privileged. Yep.
How? How so?
Well, you're white, so automatically you're privileged.
You're white as well.
It's a little iffy. It's a little... I have a lighter tint than my Mediterranean ancestors, but, yeah, not completely white.
Interesting.
Take that.
You have a lighter tint than most white people.
I'm not see-through. Cheaps.
You could use a tanning bed. That's all I'm saying. That's
I'm not
all I'm
argue
throwing out there.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. I would love a tanning bed. But yeah, so white privilege is a pillar of contemporary leftism.
Do you want this so you can scroll?
Oh,
up
sure,
the mouse?
sure. Oh, of course. You give me the mouse and things start happening. According to Dennis Prager, a pillar of contemporary leftism is the notion of white privilege, given that a generation of high school and college students are being taught that a great number of unearned privileges accrue. There was a glare.
Sound it out.
There was a glare. Back off. To white Americans. So, white Americans are automatically privileged. However, according to statistics, that's right, statistics, big
well
word for
done.
me today. Thank you. More white males commit suicide a year than any other race. Let me just give you the numbers that Dennis Prager has in his article here. 7 out of every 10, which is very high considering that only 3 out of every 10 Americans are white males.
Well, see, this probably going to be controversial.
It probably will be.
This really backs up white privilege because these whiteys have the privilege to be able to end life when they want to.
So you're saying that because they're privileged, they have they have a better or an easier way to get a gun?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just making
basically,
sure.
That's white privilege.
So,
and a reason we need stricter gun control, am I right?
Exactly. Yeah, you are. There's no other way to kill yourself besides with a gun.
Nope.
So
that's factually accurate.
That is very.
Don't look it up.
Wikipedia. According to Dennis Prager, there are a few things that actually dwarf white privilege, and I'll give them to you. 2-parent privilege. And if you don't know what that is, let me spell it out. 2-parent. There you go. That's it. So if you have 2 parents in the house, you're more privileged. Doesn't matter race, sex, ethnicity, whatever. You're more privileged.
But if you're 2 parents and they're white, and you're white too, you have incredibly more privilege.
Wow. Yes, I didn't even think about that.
You didn't.
Well played, sir.
Shot a hole through Dennis Prager's argument there.
Unbelievable.
Come on, son.
Yeah, no kidding. And next, this is going to shock some people. Gentile privilege. That's right. Christian, if you are a Christian, you are more privileged than Jews.
Yes. Ha! Take that. What?
That is so mean. Haven't we suffered enough by you whiteys? Yeah, that's right. I said it. I went there.
Is Jew a race?
Okay. Hebrews. But anyways, I've digressed. Minority privileged. Oh my goodness. Minority privilege dwarfs white privilege. And you know how? Because you can get accepted into a college easier.
Yeah, that's true. Elizabeth Warren. The Native American senator from Massachusetts who happens to be white. She got into college because she marked down that she was Native American and because she had high cheekbones.
Yep,
so it's not always a skin color; it's sometimes a bone arrangement.
Yeah. So if you want your children to go to a good college, quickly take them to the plastic surgeon.
Yep, get those
raise
cheekbones raised, and you're good to go. And also, make sure you write a cookbook that is incredibly racist against Native Americans, and then say it's,
It's part of your culture.
It's part of your culture, yeah.
Another one?
Because that's what her family did as well.
Wow. Another privilege?
Yeah.
You'll never guess this one.
I won't.
Can anybody else guess? Okay, well, you took too long. Asian.
You're not lying.
That's right. Asian privilege. Actually, the Asian population does better in school and actually is starting to take over the wealth in America.
Huh.
Yeah. So, there goes that
Who would have
one.
thought?
Yeah. And last, but not least.
No, because that would align a allotment of privilege.
Yeah, that would what? American privileged. So, if you're an American, you have privilege. I don't.
Yeah, but that's because of the system that our founders set up.
Right. Exactly. Being American privileged means that you have rights and you have freedoms. However, I mean, we're slowly giving those rights and privileges away, but
quite
whatever.
willingly, mind you.
Yeah,
quite willingly.
yes.
I actually found this great. I was doing a little research. I found this great. Artists break the silence of white privilege at Justice for Lamar fundraiser. This is a poetry slam.
Oh, okay.
Here is what we've got going on. I got to cue it up a second.
All right. But I just find it very interesting that there's nobody talks about any other of the privileges besides white privilege.
Yeah, because in their world it's easier. It's easier for white people to look at other white people and say, you have white privilege. I mean, that's the liberal talking point, is that every white person has white privilege. They don't look at themselves, though, because they're the ones calling out white privilege. And if you call out white privilege, you obviously can't have white privilege.
Exactly. And it's really funny because a lot of the people that call it out, probably they make six figures a year.
They do. At the very least.
Yeah, at the very least.
They make a very comfortable living. But they look at you and me, and they say white privilege.
Now, would you think that the Clintons are white privileged?
No, because they were poor. They were poor when they left the White House. Remember, they were destitute.
Oh, yeah.
They had to charge six figures for speeches.
Hold
they
on.
had to.
They were poor when they left where?
The White House. They don't have a house anymore. That was their house.
Oh, okay.
They were homeless.
Oh, so they just went back to Arkansas and lived in a box for a little while?
What?
Or New York?
No. They lived very comfortably.
Well, they were poor.
Hillary became a senator.
Yeah, so
it got so bad for them that Hillary had to go back to work.
I cannot. Way to pick up the mantle, Hillary.
Oh, that has man in it. That's
way to pick up the woman.
My word.
Womantle. There we go.
Here we go. We got a little. I found this particular poem, poetry slam.
Yeah.
Quite riveting.
Okay.
White privilege is alive and well in this country, and from withheld opportunities to wearing a hoodie in a gated community, our minorities are constantly being told their place. Doors getting slammed in their faces, but you don't even notice that there's doors there.
Don't even notice.
Because to you, just door frames.
Just door frames.
It's been said that white privilege is never happy to think about it, but verdict after verdict, I find it impossible to ignore. Such state-sanctioned racial violence and blatant inequality, killer cops that walk around with impunity while black and brown faces fill up our prisons with their minor offenses. Yeah. The real crime being that they were too poor to afford a good lawyer. And that's what they make it to the back of the cup card all. So I guess we'll have to consider them the lucky ones. You know, I'll bet if you ask the families of Michael Brown or Jamar Clark or Sandra Bland or Eric Garner or countless others, they'd tell you that they'd rather been able to visit their daughters and sons in prison. But make no mistake, this justice system is not broken. It was built to work this way. And it's important to remember that the police are only the enforcers of this order, that it comes from a much higher place, a much deeper well of hatred. So no, this isn't about a few bad apples that have misbehaved. This is about how the police are trained.
Yeah. Real quick, sweetie, who's been president for the last 7 years?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily what the obvious lesbian was saying, but she basically lays out the definition of what
white privilege,
is.
That's
how the system was set up to be.
Right.
The founding fathers were like, dude, we're going to make a system where white people have privilege because we don't like people of other colors.
Right.
That's I think, paraphrasing some of the founding fathers' letters I made up.
I really think that George Washington actually wrote that to Thomas Jefferson. Dude.
Yeah, it was word for word.
Yeah, that is,
word for word.
Very eloquent, very eloquent.
Yes.
So, it's just so outrageous. Did the thought ever come into her mind that, I don't know, they're criminals? I know the hands up, don't shoot whole routine and everything.
When I don't know of a time anybody's ever actually been just arrested for wearing a hoodie in a gated community.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, maybe asked to take off the hood if they have it up, or maybe asked a question because if there's a neighborhood watch and there's a person, doesn't matter what skin color, if a person has the hood up and it's dark out, you have a neighborhood watch, they will be suspicious because they don't recognize you.
Well, there's a reason gated communities are gated.
That's true.
And it's because you don't want strangers just walking around your neighborhood. So you generally know your neighbors in a gated community. And if there's somebody you don't necessarily recognize walking around, you're going to be suspicious. Because, again, the whole reason you put the gate up is so that strangers don't just walk around.
Right. Maybe next time she could talk about how white people have alarm systems in their houses.
Right? You keep poor people out.
Exactly. Oh, I cannot believe.
Right.
Security systems, unbelievable. How racist.
That's the definition of white privilege.
It is.
Folks, we're at the end of the episode. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Russinize Your Day Show. Check us out, whirlwindmedia.com, WHRL. It's part of the WHRL network. And you can check us out on Twitter at Russinized, Russinized. Also at Whirlwind Media is also on Twitter. Check us out there. Check us out on Facebook and any form of social media you can think of. We're probably there. So you can find us everywhere. And also subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play Music. And please rate and review us on iTunes. It helps us move up the rankings the more reviews we get. Obviously, you're going to give the show a 5-star review. I mean, that's just...
At least 5.
Obviously. At least. Well...
You can draw on your own stars.
You really can't.
Yeah, you can. I said so.
Well, I guess that's true then. Email us any thoughts, ideas. If you got a topic you want us to cover, please email us, Russinize at whirlwindmedia.com. That's RUSSINIZE at WHRLwindmedia.com. And we'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode of the Russinize Your Day Show. Hopefully Friday, we will talk a bit about the upcoming South Carolina primary and where things stand, because that is coming up. We got it's next Monday. Actually.
Yep.
So it's right around the corner. That's a big primary, and we'll have all the numbers to you and talk of what's been happening in the primary election so far since New Hampshire. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Talk to you soon. I'm Russ.
And I'm Brent.